Hey everyone, Echidna Power here, and today I'm joined by my old friend Zino76, who at one point was the sprite animator for the defunct Dash Adventure. You can subscribe to him on his channel, by the way, where he does game reviews along with a bunch of other skits. How are you, my friend?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty darn well. I'm really glad to be able to do stuff with you again. It has been, we're old, man. It's been 10 years since we tried to do any kind of content together. Dash Adventure, man. Oh my gosh. Dash Adventure could be a whole story, like the fall of Dash Adventure. Maybe that's a documentary that I'll do one of these days. You got some projects going on. I know you do. We'll go into that at the end because I want to make sure everybody knows that you've got stuff going on too. But what I really wanted to do here was ever since the trailer came out for Sonic Frontiers, I really wanted to speculate on what the story of this game could be. You know me, you know how I am, you know how I'm kind of big time story focused when it comes to gaming, especially when it comes to like the world of Sonic, because Sonic and his stories were what hooked me into the series in the first place. Like, yeah, gameplay and all that, that's great. But what really got me hooked into Sonic specifically was when the stories and the characters actually started to get fleshed out, which was why it was a big deal for me. So when I found out that it was actually going to be Ian Flynn who was going to be, quote, penning the story, I just about lost it in the best possible way, because people have been begging for Ian Flynn to write the story for a Sonic game ever since. It feels like pretty much since we started Dash Event, pretty much a decade ago, we were begging Ian Flynn to write a story for a Sonic game. We so badly wanted him to write it because we felt like he had a good handle on who the characters were, what their personalities were, what made them tick as characters. Now, not everybody loves Ian Flynn's writing. I understand that, but got to be a heck of a lot better than whatever Pontek and Graf have done for the past
Oh, yeah, definitely.
10 years. Like, everybody loves Baldy McNose hair and all that, but you know what? It just kind of makes you lose sight of the fact that Sonic is supposed to be a hero and that he actually takes things seriously. Colors just kind of ruin that whole thing for me. So if now Ian Flynn is going to be writing the story and not Pontek and Graf, then I'm very much more hopeful for where this story could go. I'm not. Like, I was very excited at the time. I'm still not like super optimistic, just because I know what it is that Sega loves to do. They love to put up mandates and stuff. It was actually kind of funny. Apparently Ian Flynn was on his podcast, the Bumblecast, and he was actually talking about how, what is it with? I think it's with the two new characters, Surge and I can't remember the other.
Can't remember the other guy either.
Everybody knows what the characters look like. I can't remember the Tails clone's name. But it's like he was talking about how somebody had read what the pitch was for, like, Ian had a very different origin for what Surge and the other character were supposed to come about, and basically Sega was like, well, no, we're not going to do that, but here's what you could do instead. And he was like, okay, whatever. And then somebody looked at it and was like, oh, so this is just the Android Saga from Dragon Ball. And he was like, no, that's not what it is. It's just that this thing happens and this thing happens. Like, oh crap, it's actually the Android Saga, isn't it? So apparently Sega just loves to turn Sonic into Dragon Ball at every turn, whether on purpose or by accident, but that seems to be their habit.
Yeah.
So now, again, Ian Flynn is now writing this story, and now that the trailer came out, there was a bunch of speculation about what this whole thing could mean. We see Sonic running from these missiles. We see the ground shaking behind him. This pink aura of digital whatever like overtakes him for the briefest of moment, and then he boosts away, which is funny because we know for a fact that this is not going to be the regular boost formula. In fact, I don't even think the boost is going to be in the game from everything that we've read. So all the speculation comes out, and then Sonic Team basically puts out a tweet that says, hey, whatever you're speculating, no, that's not true. And I'm just like, well, that's no fun. Like, why would you kill your own hype? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, you've got us all in a blaze talking about what this all could mean, what this all could be, and then you go ahead and you tell us, no, that's not true. I'm like, what the heck, man? Let us think about it. Let us imagine. They're like, no, shut up, stop, before you go too far. Like, are you basically warning us that whatever epic grand tale that you have in store in your brains, that's not what we're trying to write here? Like, that's kind of what it felt like when I heard that.
Yeah, it almost sounds like they're telling you don't don't make your expectations too high. That's almost the way they worded it after you
Yeah,
explained
it's
it
like
that way.
that's like the opposite of what a trailer is supposed to do. The whole point of a trailer is that you're supposed to get excited for it. You're supposed to start thinking about this, like, oh my god, what's this all about? What is chasing Sonic? Why do I hear this ghostly voice in the air? And Sonic turns around to chase after the voice. That was actually one of the first things. Is like before it was even confirmed, like I had speculated just based on what it sounded like, as like that's Amy, isn't it? And I thought to myself, really, the first other character that we're going to see in this game, it's not Tails, it's not even Eggman. The first voice that we hear that's not Sonic, who, by the way, hasn't actually talked yet, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
the first voice that we hear is Amy?
Amy. I just
And
can't
nobody...
think. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It was weird when I didn't know it was Amy at all when I saw the trailer. I just thought it was going to be a shoehorned in character that was going to be your like little tutorial sprite, kind of like Chip or Navi from like Ocarina of Time. So when I
Yes,
saw that was confirmed, it
what...
threw me through a loop completely, and I was like, "Oh wow,
Yeah,
they're actually doing that."
yeah, that was the thing, is that the leaks that had come out had talked about back when it was, what was it called, Sonic Rangers, back that was the development name for it or something.
Yeah.
Like when all these leaks came out, by the way, those leaks have been pretty darn spot on. They said open world game, they said a quote unquote ghost girl was going to be guiding Sonic, and I mean, technically speaking, I guess it seems like they're not wrong, because it's not a ghost girl. Like whenever they heard that, they thought, "Oh, it's like the girl from the Curse of the Werehog short that they created." I'm like, that seems like a stretch. I sincerely doubt they're gonna bring this one character from this one short back to basically be the guiding character for a whole game. That doesn't wash for me. And so again, when I heard it, I was like, that sounds a lot like Amy. And then it got confirmed by mind you, it got confirmed by accident. It seems like even when Sonic Team desperately tries to avoid spoilers, they can't help it because somebody always screws it up. It got confirmed to be Amy when, number one, the voice actor said that one of the Japanese voice actors basically said, "Oh, Amy sounds great in this trailer." I'm like, really?
Oh, they just
Amy
threw it
sounds
out
great?
there.
Yeah, and they're like, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And then the Xbox version of the trailer came out, and when you play the subtitles, the name of the character talking is in the subtitle, and it literally says Amy. I'm like, oh, well, thanks for giving it away, Xbox. I appreciate it. It's like I was like, aha! I knew I was right, and that's what made me start to think, because one of the things that had been talked about in the leaks was that this game was going to delve deep into Hedgehog lore. I'm like thinking, like, really? Just Hedgehog lore? It's like, are we gonna dig into Sonic's history? Because we've gone into Shadow's past, we've done a little bit of Knuckles' ancestry, but Sonic has never really had much of an origin, at least not in the game universe. The game universe was always that Sonic just was the hero who stopped Eggman. There wasn't really much to it. Other means of media have tried to give him an origin. They tried to do it with the Archie comics. This is what Sonic's origin is there. They did it with Sonic Underground. They tried to do it with that. But the games themselves, like the actual canon games, Sonic has never really had much exploration tied around him. So the idea of this being a game about hedgehogs, like what about the hedgehogs make them so special? What about the hedgehogs make them the center of this universe, so to speak? Because if you think about it, I remember when Takashi Iizuka basically said this, is that only hedgehogs can use super forms, and I'm like, since when? Knuckles went super in the classic games. Tails went super in the classic games. So now you're telling me that only hedgehogs have the ability to use the Chaos Emeralds that way? That doesn't make any sense to me. So if they were trying to set up that hedgehogs are supposedly this special species, that makes sense. And if this game is going to delve into that, I thought that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that you were talking about how things correlate to Dragon Ball, this almost correlates to the same thing with Saiyans having specific forms when they go super. Yeah, I just find it quite interesting that they, like, I mean, they're actually putting this into the game now, just in terms of actually having Sonic have an origin in terms of how his culture and his species works in the games, because we've never had anything like that.
Well, that's what I would like it to be. Remember, it's still a leak, technically speaking, so it's not confirmed that that's what they're doing. And that's what kind of killed me about the whatever you're thinking, it's not true. I'm like, well, why would
How
you
do
say
you know?
that? Now,
Yeah.
it's like, why would you say that to us? It's like now now it's like, well, dang, well, we had all these great ideas, and now you're basically telling us to shut up. It's not true. So what should we be expecting exactly? Well, the last thing that I want, I'm going to go into what I don't want before I go into what I think I would want. What I don't want is for this to be another Sonic Forces. And I'm not even talking about it from the gameplay perspective. I'm talking about it from the perspective of there was all this hype, there was all this buildup, there was all this. You showed us all these incredible things that were going to be happening in this game. You showed us giant Eggman robots stomping through cities, and you showed us a gruesome apocalyptic landscape, and you showed us Sonic, fist clenched, teeth gritted, as he was going into action. And then you show us all the villains make an appearance. You show Chaos, you show Zavok, you show Metal Sonic, and you show Shadow. He's on the bad guy's side. What is he doing there? What is he doing on the bad guy's side? Why did he turn evil? Did something happen that he turned on us? Is it mind control? Is it what? No. It was not. It wasn't really Shadow. It wasn't really anybody. As a matter of fact, Chaos didn't even get the dignity of a boss fight. Chaos got two scenes. One where he was introduced, and one where classic Sonic splashes him in. So, it's like, thank God for the modding community, because they actually created a mod where Chaos actually gets a boss fight with classic Sonic. It's like, oh, thank you. Give him something to do in this game. Like, why did you bother to bring him in if you were only going to bring him in for two scenes? Why? Because you were building hype. It's a marketing ploy. But
Yeah.
if you're going out of your way to stop the marketing before it gets a chance to go out of control. Like, it almost feels like you're trying to avoid another Sonic Forces by making sure that everybody isn't too excited to begin with.
That's the one thing I'm worried about in terms of them saying. I'm trying to still collect my thoughts here, but if they're trying to make us not have to think about the hype in our own ways, I don't know how actually confident they are in terms of the game's story and development, like how it'll be.
I think this is what it comes down to. I think that they're still scarred from Sonic 06. The scar is there. It'll never fully go away. It's faded a little bit over time, but it's still there. It still reminds them that you can't fly too close to the sun or something along those lines. They don't want to commit to going all out with this thing.
Yeah, they might be still they don't want the story to be too complicated because they feel like the fans wouldn't understand, because that's how do I put this? The past 10 years, the stories have been simpler, and it's been working out for them sales-wise, but not like fan-wise. It's hard for me to put into words, but
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, hopefully they're over that finally, and they can delve into actual deep storytelling like they've been doing with Sonic Adventure 1, 2, Unleashed, 06, but they can actually tell it correctly, especially if they're getting, you said Ian Flynn, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they're getting him to write it.
Like that by itself brought me up to hype levels that I had not felt since the Sonic Forces trailer came out. Like, I had not been so excited for anything ever in Sonic's history, could be perfectly honest. So now I know that Sonic Team doesn't want us to have fun with the speculation, but that's no fun. The whole point is to have fun. So this is what I would like to do. I want to go ahead and I want to talk about what it is that I would like to see in the Sonic Frontier story. And we have this kind of idea that we're getting this kind of idea that it's almost like a digital landscape, almost, that like Sonic is in this place called the Starfall Islands. The way that the trailer is structured is that it's possible that each island is its own open world. So since everything is zones, it's possible that everything is kind of it's gonna be open world, but it's not gonna be so open world that everybody, or rather the whole game, is like Breath of the Wild in that sense. It's like with Breath of the Wild, nothing is truly separate from anything else. The whole world is essentially rendered.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. Now, obviously, you can't render the whole map everywhere you go. It renders as you walk towards it. But with Sonic, it's basically what I'm understanding is, and again, this is speculation because we have like zero gameplay to be able to draw from this. It's only hearsay, but it's going to be like zones. It's going to be specific environments, and you'll be able to run around in these massive areas where you'll be able to do this and that. If I could put it together, let's do this. Kingdom Hearts 3. I think that's the open world concept that maybe they're trying to go for. Because Kingdom Hearts 3 gave you a lot more room to like platform and to run around and to do stuff in, but at the same time, even though a lot of everything was more interconnected, there were still certain points where you had to load in a new area.
Yeah.
That's what I figure Sonic Forces will be.
That's an interesting I didn't think of it being that way. My first speculation was they already did overhype the type of gameplay it was actually going to be, and it was going to be something more simplistic, like a adventure field from Sonic Adventure, where the open world was just a way to put a portal level into actual zones or levels you could play in. But what you have is a little more interesting. And while you were talking about that, I was thinking maybe they might have found a way to intricately do something similar to Breath of the Wild, but everything was a little more. Try and picture this. If you played Super Mario Odyssey, think of their type of levels, but instead of having you load to another zone, they're all there. It's just like more of a concrete change of environment, but still in the same world.
So it would. So it. Okay, so admittedly I didn't play Super Mario Odyssey. I'm very bad at spending money on games.
Yeah, it's okay. The Kingdom Hearts 3 analogy actually worked probably better to fit what I was thinking while you were saying it, like how that would work. I just thought maybe it'd be more, it would blend in a little better in terms of, like, what do you call them? Regions. That's the word. The regions, yeah.
But let me tell you something. I'll say this. I didn't spend money on Super Mario Odyssey because Super Mario Odyssey didn't really draw me in, because I know the truth is I don't play games just to play games. I want to experience something. So when Mario Odyssey came out, I'm like, oh, they're making a true 3D Mario platformer again. That's awesome. That's great. A lot of people are very happy. I didn't particularly care, man. I really didn't.
It's the care. Mario story formula. You can't really get anything too awesome or grand about that.
It's like, if you're looking for gameplay, yeah, Mario's your guy. He's going to take care of you. But if you're looking for like an experience to be absorbed into something, you're better off looking literally anywhere else. But Kingdom Hearts, when it came out, like when I finally started to play it, like even though the story makes no sense, it's if you really, really think about it, you can poke holes on it every single step of the way. But the fact is that for people who are fans of the series, they either laugh at it and they're like, yeah, the story's crap, but we don't care, which is fine. If you don't care, that's fine. Or you let the emotions of the moment just kind of suck you in, and you don't really particularly care about whether there are plot holes or not. You're just going along for the ride. And that's kind of how my game experiences, I always like them to be. With Sonic Adventure, I'm well aware that from a gameplay standpoint, it's incredibly flawed compared to some of the other stuff that Sonic Team came out with over the years. Like Sonic Generations, there's no comparison that Sonic Generations as a game is vastly superior to the adventure games. Vastly superior. But the experience of the game, the being sucked into it aspect of it, that's what draws me in. There needs to be something that I am looking forward to. I want to see what happens next. So games like the Spider-Man game. I loved the Spider-Man game. The gameplay was fantastic. I loved swinging it around. But I wanted to know what happened next. That was what kept me going. That was what made me stay up late at night, because I needed to see what the next cutscene was going to be. I needed to see what was going to happen with the characters. So I could, like, if all I need to do is just swing around the game all day, I can turn off the game and I can go start swinging the next day. But it's the story that drags you in, that makes you want to see what happens next. And that's what I think Sonic Frontiers needs to go ahead and do. Ian Flynn, if he's penning this, he needs to realize that this story needs to be something that is going to drag in an audience, and it's going to grab them by the neck and say, you're going to stay here and you're going to listen to this and you're going to like it. That's kind of what it is. It's got to hold you hostage, for lack of a better term. Like, you need a story that you can't just walk away from and just be like, "Ugh, I'll finish it tomorrow." You know, it needs to be something that I need to see what happens next.
A
Oh my god,
nail
this is
biter,
incredible.
yeah.
And so, some of the theories that I came up with, and this is something that I've thrown around with some other folks that I'm friends with. This is a concept that it occurred to me, and I sincerely let me preface all my comments by saying this. This is not something I expect them to do. I expect, like, this, as sad as it is, I expect it to be bland and boring because that's kind of how they do the stories now. But I this is what I would like to see. I would like to see something along these lines. I had pictured that since Amy's voice is the one that's guiding Sonic, so to speak, in this trailer, that you hear her telling her to come over and follow her voice this way. And then when Sonic meets the Colossus thing at the very end of the trailer, like, in a very distorted kind of voice, the first thing what you hear Amy say is that it's too dangerous. So what is she referring to? Is she scared that Sonic actually can't take something, like it's too much for him to handle? Which, if that's the case, then boy, we've got some real big robots here, because, or whatever they are. I don't even know if they're robots. Maybe they're not even robots. Maybe they're something else entirely. But the idea is that, well, what if, and again, speculation, this is just my idea of what it could be. I had always pictured that, what if this monster, this creature that Sonic runs into and it almost stomps on him, well, what if that, because we never really got a really good look at the thing, right? Like, we maybe got to see, like, part of its leg or something that we assumed was its leg. Well, what if this beast is not really is not really just a random monster? What if Amy sounds the way that Amy sounds, the way the delivery is made is like Amy is terrified for Sonic's life right now. Like, this isn't just one of those, like, it's don't do it, it's not a good idea, like, you shouldn't try this. Like, Amy's like, you need to turn around now. That's kind of the delivery that's kind of what the delivery came from for me. And so I couldn't help but wonder, I'm wondering, is the monster Amy, and she knows that if he tries to face her, she will kill him, and she won't be able to stop him.
You just turned my whole story thought around completely right when you said that sentence. Because now you're making me think each zone has, it's kind of like Sonic Generations, but way more complicated in terms of saving your friends. What if your friends are like the corrupted ones, and you have to save them or purify them out of whatever happened to them in each area? And that one was just Amy, and the next one is Tails, and the next one is Knuckles, and they each help you grow stronger to help free the rest of your friends. I didn't think about that until right when you said that.
Because we've already got confirmation that Tails is going to appear, because of course Tails is going to appear. There's not going to be a Sonic game ever again. Tails is not going to appear in some fashion. Eggman, obviously, he's mandatory. Mike Pollock probably has a thing in his contract that says, I have to appear in every game. But anyway. And of course Amy, because we knew that from the start. So that was what I was thinking, is like, and of course, everybody knows this. I'm a Son Amy shipper. I was wondering, like, is it possible that Amy's the only one who's pure of heart enough to be able to speak to Sonic through this little corruption thing of hers? Like, is she the robot? Is she the power source for the robot? Because, again, I can't get over the delivery of it. That's the thing that gets to me. It's not like, Sonic, this is a bad idea. It's more like, it is too dangerous. Leave now, or I am going to do something I will regret for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it aligns too well with Sonic's base premise of the old games. Remember, Eggman took animals and put them into robots to power them. This could be that on a massive scale. And
it maybe, and the other thing that we have from the leaks is that basically Eggman tries to take control of this AI or something. I don't know I can't remember what it was going to be called. What was it?
It had to be something to do with that architectural
Sage,
design,
that was
right?
it. I remember now. It's Sage, and the reason it's Sage is because it was
Sonic
basically
Amateur
a play
Games
on,
Expo. No.
Yes, that was. Yes, that was the running name for what this AI was supposed to be, which by the way is a great callback, okay? It's
Yep.
really a great callback. But so the idea, maybe that's the thing, is that Eggman in the games anyway was never really able to do the mind control thing very well. He was like his one attempt was with Tails and Sonic Colors that lasted all of 5 minutes. Not because, and I don't think it was because I think the premise was just that Eggman wants to control the world, and I don't know. It just felt like they didn't really want to go all out with it. Then again, so they just kind of like chickened out at the last second.
Yeah,
It's like,
just
no, this is
suspension of
not the kind of game.
disbelief kind of thing.
This is a comedy game. We're not gonna have Sonic fight Tails or anything along those lines. And the one time that Tails actually did kinda get roboticized, it had nothing to do with Eggman per se. It was the Zeddy who managed to do that. And so I can't help but wonder if like this super superior AI, it actually, because we already know that from the leaks is that, oh, the AI is going to betray Eggman. It's not going to listen to him because of course it doesn't. It never does. But I mean, perhaps this AI is more adept at taking control of animals than Eggman is, including sentient ones like Sonic, Tails, Amy. Because the little flicky characters, like, they come across as having minds of their own, but it's very on a primitive level, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like the cows. Like, the chow have minds of their own, but it's not like you would ever see them as anything but pets, you know?
Yeah.
So, to take control of the likes of Knuckles, Tails, Amy, like, you would have to have a much more advanced method of doing stuff like that. And if this AI is supposedly so incredible that it can take control of all of Eggman's technology and create a whole digital world, which again, all of this is speculation based on the leaks and everything and what we're seeing from the trailer.
All rumors,
But
yeah.
yep. And that's why this is all about just theorizing. So that's why this could be one of the better stories in a long time, simply because there's a lot more, even though we're not seeing as much, there's a lot more room for imagination.
Yeah. Definitely way
So,
more than Forces too.
no. Yeah, with Forces, it was all out. It was laid out for you. It was like, here's Shadow, here's Chaos, here's Zabok, here's Metal Sonic. You're gonna fight them.
With a
Okay, ready,
twist.
go. So, do you have any thoughts on what Sonic Frontiers or what would you like to see? I guess is the question. What would you like to see from Sonic Frontiers?
That is a tricky question for myself because I still don't know 100% what I want, but based on what I've seen, what I would like to see from the footage, how it would play out would be something that's, and I hate to compare it to Breath of the Wild because it lines up too well with it, but having a way to show Sonic he needs to grow stronger to beat the game instead of just going through the levels to get whatever you need to beat the game. Because when we were talking about the whole Amy could potentially be trapped away in something, I was thinking, or telling Sonic to back off from the thing if she was being controlled by it because it's too strong. My thought was he would have to venture out across the land to find things that would make him powerful enough to take on these said bosses. That's what I want to see in this game. Give you purpose to explore the land and grow stronger, level up, find something that keeps you alive longer, health. I don't know how the game works, but that's what I'm speculating.
So, did you know that part of the leaks was that there were going to be like supersonic fights?
I didn't hear anything about that. No, I'm very out of the loop.
Okay, so one of the things that was leaked was that in order to fight certain monsters in this world, Sonic was actually going to have to go supersonic in order to get the job done. So I'm curious as to how that's all going to work. It's actually funny. As we're recording this, Takashi Iizuka just yesterday came out and basically said that they want to quote unquote take Sonic to the next level because while they want to make sure that his signature speed is kept intact, they seem to be mentioning a lot about combat and stuff that there's going to be added to this whole thing. So it's possible that maybe there is going to be stuff to look for where he's going to have to power up in order to take down these things. Because I can't imagine that if you had the ability to go supersonic, why would you ever not be supersonic?
Yeah, I mean, going back onto the trailer again, that weird particle effects. I wonder if that has something to do with him being able to transform without it temporarily, and you have to find a way to charge it up.
So, like, we're gonna add a new MacGuffin. We had the Phantom Ruby in the comics. Now we have the Warp Topaz. Let's see the Digital Sapphire. I don't know.
Another stone. But I don't know. I feel like since they showed it off so deliberately in the trailer, I have a feeling that has to be tied to something that lets him transform into his inner, like, true strength without having the need of unlimited power of the Chaos Emeralds. Now, at the end of the game, you could probably find a way to obtain all 7. Heck, you could even there could be a side story where a side thing where the Chaos Emeralds don't have their energy like they do in Sonic Adventure, and you have to find a way to temporarily charge them up, and that's why you can only be supersonic in specific combat scenarios. Because you have all 7 Chaos Emeralds, it's just they're not at their full potential somehow, and they'd have to explain that through the gameplay and the story.
So kind of a Sonic Unleashed thing where the Chaos Emeralds are there. It's just that they're flat and nothing, and they need to be repowered up.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just gonna call this out. The concept of unlimited power is that it's unlimited. It doesn't run out. Just saying.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing about the Chaos Emeralds in terms of how they work. That's why I've always found it funny when they say stuff like that, but then you have to find a way to turn it on. Is the weird part. Like how Sonic could only be super as long as he has rings or something like that. Well, it says he has unlimited power. How come he can't just be in the super state whenever he needs to?
Remember the cutscene in Sonic Unleashed, which, by the way, was like the best cutscene that Sonic has had.
I want that as a movie. As a movie.
There's your Sonic movie. Like, I'm not gonna knock what Sonic has accomplished with his movie. Good job, Paramount, for doing the job you've done. I'll give you credit, but like, didn't Sony animate that Sonic Unleashed opening?
It was a smaller development company that actually did the same one as like the Shadow in-game not in-game, the pre-rendered cutscenes. It's a small company that Sega owns, but that plus I'd have to look it up. They actually just took the time to commission that work specifically for that introduction.
It's just like, I'm thinking to myself, why don't you just pay them a lot of money and make them, like, there's your Ian Flynn. Like, have Ian Flynn, like, write a movie and you just tell these people, go animate it. That would be incredible. It would be incredible.
It would be otherworldly. And it makes you wonder why they don't even do it. It makes me mad every day.
Yes, that's the frustrating thing about Sonic Team. Is like, they have money sitting there, man, and they just ignore it.
It's potential, and they don't take advantage of it.
Like, even today, even back then in even now, even though it was back in 2010, didn't Sonic Unleashed came out in like 2010, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It's 2008. Or something along those lines.
Okay, 2008. So back even then in 2008, like, I'm just thinking about it. It's like, I have not seen better Sonic cutscenes since then.
Nothing has matched it. Yeah.
Nothing has even come close to matching what they did in that one little cutscene. And so I'm just thinking to myself, doggone it, man. Like, if I could have a whole movie with that kind of animation style, and forget about celebrity voice actors. That's done. By the way, I will give credit though. Idris Elba sounds pretty good as Knuckles. I'm gonna say that right now. But just get the gang together, write a story like this, make it happen. And no, you don't have to put a human cat girl in to make it interesting.
Yeah. Sonic OVA.
Yes, but that's the last real Sonic movie that even remotely comes to mind.
Yeah, so, that actually reminds me. This is a weird thing to say. The company that made it, I was looking up right now, Marza Animation Planet. They did the Sonic Unleashed introduction scene. They actually were commissioned to help work on the Sonic 2020 film.
Really?
They helped on it. Yeah. So I'm wondering how they did that, because it's hard to tell where they were involved in that movie, because Paramount owns it, right? Paramount made, I can't remember who.
Paramount. I don't know how movie production works, but Paramount is the one that released the movie. Like, they're the ones who distributed it.
Published,
I don't know if they published the movie. So, but maybe they had. I know that Tyson Hesse was brought in to help with the redesign, since whatever the hell they tried to put the first time was terrible.
Oh boy.
So I know that that's what happened, and thank God they did. Otherwise, the movie would have been a flop. I guarantee it. Like you'd be
Yep.
surprised how much one design can make or break something like that. But um, but I maybe it's possible because again, these people, what did you say the company was called?
It was Mars Animation Planet and also Blur Studio. Blur Studio
Mars.
helped. Yeah.
Okay.
All they did was just look up
So,
Sonic Unleashed on the Wikipedia, and then they have the companies that said that helped make everything for it. So I'm looking
all
at it
right.
right now. Blur Studio may have done more involvement than them because they are the ones responsible for the Shadow cutscenes, the Sonic '06 cutscenes, Sonic Unleashed cutscenes, and the Sonic movies.
Okay, so Blur Studios did. I guess that makes sense. Blur Studios, Sonic Blur. Um, soundboard. Um, so maybe what they did was they tried to kind of give some insight onto how Sonic moves because I'm sure that these people who initially made the movie they're not Sonic fans. I'm almost positive they're not Sonic fans, which is probably why they thought that first design was a good idea. Um, it's kind of crazy if you really think about it. The ones who do Sonic best are the ones who are fans of Sonic.
Yep.
Like with Mario, you can get away with having a non-Mario fan do it because as long as you can create a competent game, you're good. If you create a Pokemon game, they don't need to be fans of Pokemon. They just need to be competent game developers. It's like, but with Sonic, like, there's so much history. There's so much lore. Like even the Legend of Zelda, you could kind of get away with it because every game of Zelda, aside from this sequel with Breath of the Wild, and I guess you could also argue Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, stuff like that, because those were direct offshoots of each other. All that, they're all standalones. Like
Yeah, they're
you
all in
don't
their own
even
little
need to,
bubble.
you don't need to play one. Like they tried to make that whatchamacallit.
The
I don't
timeline
know what they called it.
continuity.
Yeah, I don't know what they officially called it. It's like an encyclopedia that's supposed to explain all that. But I don't remember what they called it. But they tried to put it all together and say, oh yeah, here's the comprehensive world. Here's where all the timelines just branch off. That's great. But let's be real. If you play any of those games, you can just kind of take it at face value because that's just how it is. But with Sonic specifically, there's so much more emphasis on what the history was, what happened before this, because it's not different versions of the characters every time. Every game, it's a different Link. Every game, it's a different Zelda. Every game, it's like a reincarnation of characters that you knew before, but now they're different because you need them to be different.
Yeah.
It's like Skyward Sword Zelda is not Twilight Princess Zelda. Phantom Hourglass Zelda is not this other Zelda. It's all different characters. Link is always different. Zelda's always different. Ganondorf is always different. And so, even though they're the same characters, they're not the same personalities. Everybody is their own offshoot of each other. So, but with Sonic, it's always the same Sonic. It's always the same Tails. It's always the same Knuckles throughout the entirety of the game's history. There are other versions in other media. The Knuckles in the comics is not the Knuckles in the games. The Shadow in the comics is not the Shadow in the games. At least not as much since Ian Flynn's trying to fix it. But anyway, but you get the concept. It's always the same characters. And so when you create a story about Sonic, you can't escape the stuff that came before it. Like you can pretend it didn't happen. You can put out a blanket statement that says everything is canon if you want to. But the fact of the matter is that you have to be a fan of Sonic now in order to truly comprehend what it is that you are trying to do with him. Like whether it's story-wise, whether it's gameplay-wise, you have to know what Sonic has done before in order to truly put together something special. That Sonic movie that Paramount distributed would not have gone as well if the fans had not screamed and hollered and said, "This is bad, fix it." And give credit to Jeff Fowler because he went out there and said, "We hear you. We're going to fix it. Don't worry." And they brought in Tyson Hesse. They brought that. I don't know if Blur Studios was involved from the start, but they basically did what they could to make it work too. You have to be a fan of Sonic now in order to truly respect what Sonic has done in the past. So you have to know that Sonic '06 Like, even though nobody really particularly cares for the story, it still technically happened. Shadow the Hedgehog, nobody particularly likes that it exists, but it did happen, and you can't escape that. So that way, when people see that Shadow has just become a clone of Vegeta, and he just gripes and moans and has no friends, and he's always angry, and he's like, that was not what Shadow was before then. And you can't say that this is just a different version of Shadow to get away with it. This is the same Shadow who went through his hero arc in Sonic Adventure 2. This is the same Shadow who woke up in a pod and had to be rescued by Rouge and Omega, who, by the way, became friends. I'm sorry, Sega. It did happen.
Yep.
This is the same Shadow who went through his little amnesia arc and fought off the Black Arms. And this is the same Shadow who, when he was in Sonic 06, was basically the biggest hero of the whole bunch. I'm sorry. Shadow's story in Sonic 06 was a masterpiece, and I will hold on to that with my dying breath.
Yep. I don't even understand Sonic 06 100% yet, but I can definitely tell they put a lot more effort into his story to help make sure the full story comes to conclusion perfectly. Like, he does more than you know to make sure that story works out.
Shadow's story in Sonic 06 was the true conclusion. Like, in Shadow the Hedgehog, he throws away the Maria and Gerald Robotnik picture, and he's like, goodbye forever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you're not going to go commit suicide now, so I know that's not what you're doing. And so he basically becomes what everybody pictured him to be. He became an agent of Gun, he did his thing, and he worked closely with Rouge and Omega, which you would expect, because that's what we came to expect. Now, there are always issues. Obviously, the biggest issue with the Shadow the Hedgehog story is that, well, why the crap didn't anybody tell Shadow what he was looking for? Like, oh, you want to know your path? Here, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. Let me tell you everything you've missed. It's like, that could have caused so much less problems. But, like, it didn't even have to be Rouge. I'm like, Sonic was there. Let me tell you, pal. Let me tell you what you did. Let me tell you who you are.
Yeah.
But nobody bothers to say that. But I don't know. Maybe they just figure Shadow doesn't actually have amnesia. Maybe they didn't bother to think, oh, it's Shadow. Hey, how you doing, pal? Nice to see you again. Do you remember who you are now? But I don't know. But either way, the point that's being made here is that you have to understand who Sonic is, what Sonic's history is, and where can you take them from there. That's the biggest problem with keeping these guys in a static bubble and not letting them learn and grow, and also regressing them. So we'll use Tails as an example. Perfect example. Sonic Forces.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Boy.
Like,
here we go.
What did you do to Tails? What did you do to Tails? Tails is scared of Chaos Zero. He went toe-to-toe with Chaos 4, and he was just fine. Like, he went up against Eggman more than once, and not only lived to tell the tale, he won. Like, his whole entire arc was becoming his own person, was learning how to stand on his own 2 feet. And again, if this had been a different version of Tails, if this had been classic Tails, if this had been an alternate universe where that arc never happened, like the Zelda series, you could get away with Tails being a coward, basically. But since it's not, and this is the same Tails who went toe-to-toe with Eggman, who fought against Chaos 4 and beyond, we all know that this is baloney. This is crap. You can't get away with that, because you're basically spitting on everything that the character already went through. I know I've done most of the talking, but...
Yeah, I'm trying to form my own words here, too. I know. I'm just trying to let you flow through, but it's just... The one thing I was pointing out with is the biggest thing about Sonic's story continuity compared to other video games continuity is they have to actually revolve and grow their personalities with each story told. In a Zelda game, they're all in their own bubble, so they go through their quick growth and then the story concludes. In the Sonic games, you have to take what they used previously, grow that type of personality for each character to lean them into the next story that happens. That doesn't happen a lot in video games these days, and that's why the story for Sonic games actually matters more than you think it should when you think about it analytically.
Like, we can act like the story doesn't matter, and we've had many people tell us, why are you playing a Sonic game for the story? It doesn't matter. And by the way, it's for kids. Okay, don't give me the it's for kids argument, because in the old days, the kids used to watch things like Batman the Animated Series, X-Men. They watched the Spider-Man cartoon. And let me tell you something, those had some moments, okay? Those are some moments, and these were for kids. for kids, these same kids who supposedly can't handle serious Sonic stories or can't take Sonic stories seriously. I always wondered this. It's like, why is it that other franchises can get away with pushing the envelope and they get away with it? But when it comes to Sonic, if he tries to go just a little bit out of line, suddenly everything is like, it's Sonic 06, it's Shadow the Hedgehog all over again. You get Jack and Daxter. Jack and Daxter had some pretty serious stories, and I know that the gameplay itself, like a lot of people were about the whole thing afterwards. But the stories themselves, they weren't complaining about the stories. Well, they were, but they weren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just
Jack and Daxter got away with it relatively unscathed as far as story goes. They were more panning the game itself.
it only baffles me to see how scared either Sonic Team or Sega is to get out of their little bubble on what they're doing in terms of letting Sonic be who he can be in a story. I'm mad. I had a whole thing in my head and I lost it. But hopefully you get what I'm meaning. Like there are franchises that let the writers do whatever the heck they want to help get the story in the game done, while a series with so much potential like Sonic the Hedgehog is restricted to have like this cookie cutter kind of storyline when he doesn't need to be like that. He doesn't need to be like Mario. He doesn't need to be like Zelda and have the same rehashed story with limitations. He should be able to breathe and let it go, especially since we see the evidence proven by the comics. Even though I'm not too well versed in the comics, I know the stories in there are way more fleshed out. They let the characters' personalities flow like a waterfall, and the stories seem great. And when you look back at reading those and then looking back on how simplistic the games are, it makes you kind of not want to play the games anymore, because the gameplay won't be worth going through that simplistic story.
For most people, anyway. Not most people. There are people like us. Well, like me anyway. I don't know how you personally stand on stories in Sonic. I feel like I've watched a few of your reviews, man. I really have. I don't think you've ever considered story as a deal breaker for you.
Yeah, it's something I could take or leave, because I know it sounds hypocritical of me saying this. I do care about the story, but when I do play the game, I end up playing for the gameplay later down the line. I just take into account the story later in the back of my head. I just don't think about it when I'm playing the game, because usually Sonic is a game you're supposed to replay according to the developers. So I have a feeling that's why they find themselves a way to limit their storylines, so they don't care if you play the missions over and over and over again. You already got your story fill, and just, I play into what they mean to do for the development of the game. I wish I was explaining this better, but you play the story once, you go over it, and then you just replay the game. That's what I do, and I know I absorbed what the story was told with. I just wish they did a better job doing it. I'm rambling.
No, that's what we've been doing, man. I've been rambling. You've been rambling. I've been rambling. I haven't given you a word edgewise, and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but I tell you, I don't like talking into a void. I like the idea of having somebody on the other end listening. So, but anyway, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm at right now with Sonic, is that, and especially with Sonic Frontiers, they have an opportunity here to really create something special. I had something in my head, and now I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with Sonic's past history. I think was it with the comics that it was? No, I can't remember. I'll probably remember it halfway into this next little thing here.
Well, yeah, the biggest thing to take out of this is the reason why everyone's freaking out about Sonic Frontiers' trailer and the knowledge we know on who's writing it and who's developing it is we have the biggest potential of a game in years. We have the good writer. We have a premise of a game design that people love. And if we can get these two things to mix just perfectly, this is going to be a Sonic game in which the likes we've never seen.
And I think that's what they were going for. And Takashi Iizuka keeps talking about how excited he is, and this is going to be the revolution of a new Sonic era. I'm like, dude, you keep hyping us up, and then you tell us to shut up about it. That's kind of you're giving us conflicting messages here. So, God, it's killing me that I can't remember what it was I wanted to say. Like it's on the tip of my tongue, and it's just like
No, I know what
it's
you're talking about. There's just so
it
much.
won't-
It's so weird. We can talk about so much for what we've seen for 40 seconds of footage. There's so much speculation. There's so much we can talk about from what we hear from the interviews. It's only a matter of time till we find a tidbit of information that could either throw this all out of the
Oh,
window.
I remember. I know. I remember.
Oh,
I remember.
go
I
ahead.
remember. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I've been watching, and this is going back to the point about how like other franchises with, by the way, with anthropomorphic characters, like they always talk about that, right? You've heard it. Like it's a speedy blue hedgehog. Who cares about this? Why do you need a serious story? I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, why does being a hedgehog make the fact that the story has to be baby? Like, I've been watching Jay's reviews. I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he's been doing a retrospective on the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. And I had never watched it. I'd never seen it. I was never a big fan of the Turtles. Like, it never bothered me. But by the way that he described it and going over everything episode by episode, I was looking at it as like, oh my God, I kind of want to watch this series now because, again, anthropomorphic, right? That was the knock on them, that they were not humans. They were like, so Sonic is a speedy blue hedgehog. Okay, well the Turtles are green sword wielding ninjas.
Yeah, it's
so,
the premise of like they're trying to just the generalization of what they have with the anthropomorphic part is like they're thinking it can't be complicated because it has to be like the Looney Tunes, just weird cartoony characters acting weird around each other. That's what I feel like is what you're trying to explain.
Yeah, yeah. But when you watch the 2003 series, at least before season 5 and 6, like the seasons 1 through 4, man, they went hard. They went in hard. Like they did some things that were against the grain. They did some things that were not usually associated with the Turtles. Like spoilers, I don't know if you ever want to watch the 2003 series. I've never watched it, but I've seen the reviews now, so I kind of know what to expect. But like the idea that the Shredder is not human, that he's actually one of the Utrom aliens in a mech suit, like that was a bizarre twist that they went ahead and did, but it seemed interesting. And that was what dragged you in. And then you're like, okay, well, the next series picks up right after that. There's story arcs. There are things that happen. Like they even went so far into doing continuity at the time that they were actually, there was a point in the series where Leonardo actually gets injured and he loses a piece of his shell, and for the sake of continuity, that missing piece stays missing for the entire rest of the season.
Wow.
Like that's how far they went to make sure that everything stayed the same. Like even though like the battle was over, they're on to new adventures, they made sure to keep that broken shell piece off, just for the sake of reminding everybody, yes, this happened. This is something they have to live with now.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? And it was maybe this is just a type of person that I am. Maybe this is just one of those things where different factions of franchises don't like this certain thing. But the concept of the Turtles going up against this incredible odds that just keep escalating. They keep becoming more and more drastic. But even then, there's still that element of humor to it. There's still something to appreciate comedically. But there's pacing, there's quiet moments. There are times where you have to sit back and just absorb what's happening. And that's the kind of thing that I think makes shows like the 2003 Turtles, the DCAU, which is Batman, Superman, Justice League, Batman Beyond, Static Shock, all that stuff. Even though it's for kids, it's not so much for kids that your brain turns numb while you watch it.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
the
constant energy all the time, nonsense kind of stuff. There's actual flow. There's things you can help reflect off of after something drastic happens in a story. It's just structured well. It's what you call good storytelling, and we can have that in the Sonic series. We have all the characters, and we have the whole entire, what's the word? It's like a placement. The structure is there. They just need to utilize it right, and this is the big opportunity for them to take advantage of it.
Oh yeah, for real. Like if you tell, like again, we'll go back to the one of the original points that we made way before this. Like I said that I didn't want this to be an hour, but it looks like we're gonna do that
Yeah,
anyway.
we're getting
Um,
56 minutes in. Yeah.
it's like it's gonna be that way anyway. One of the things that we had that I mentioned much earlier on was the idea of this leak talking about hedgehog lore. Well, okay, so hedgehog lore. All right, so Sonic's origin, Amy, which is maybe why Amy is the first voice that you hear. So maybe Amy's actually going to be more involved in this story than we think, which would be great. And by the way, I found it hysterical. I'm just going to say this now. I found it hysterical that there was one tweet reply to, talking about how they're really excited for it, but I wish they weren't pushing the Son Amy so much. I'm like, Sonic talking to Amy is too much Son Amy.
I don't understand how that's just they're just talking. That's like a matter even in matters of survival. It doesn't matter. Is they were just making sure they are fine.
Like, if they are in the same room,
there's some tension there. All of a sudden, according to the fans here.
Like you're not allowed to talk. You're only allowed to push Amy's face in the dirt. That's what you're allowed to do. But anyway, so now you have Sonic, you have Amy, and even though he's not technically quote unquote born of this world, Shadow is a hedgehog. So that kind of makes me wonder. It's like when they made Shadow. Let's take this into perspective. When they made Shadow, did Gerald Robotnik make him piece by piece? Did they grow him like a fungus in a test tube? Or was he a regular hedgehog and like Gerald breathed life into him with whatever stuff he had,
like,
and also
like DNA manipulation and stuff.
DNA.
Oh, I didn't even think that. I thought maybe he was created because I think that's the way they explained it every time.
But that's the thing is like, yeah, you created him, but you have to have something to start with.
Yeah, that's a loose definition if you really think about it.
You can't create something from nothing. You can't. Like, you have to have some kind of a basis. You have to have some kind of a concept of what it is you're going for. Like, you have hedgehog DNA. Okay, well, what hedgehog? Like, whose DNA are we using? It has to be a template that starts with something. It's like, in order for there to be hedgehog DNA, you have to get the DNA from somewhere. Which means that in order to create Shadow, even if you have hedgehog DNA, well, who's the anthropomorphic hedgehog that Shadow is based on?
Yeah. Sonic.
And, well, it can't be Sonic because Sonic wasn't born when Shadow was created, remember?
Well, okay, if we want to go way in depth into the story-wise here, the first thing I can... Okay, first, I have a lot on my brain here.
Okay, go ahead.
The first thing is, I have a feeling with Sonic Frontiers, we're going to be visiting a type of ancient cultural history of hedgehogs, and this might tie down why Gerald was influenced to create Shadow in the first place, thinking how he could potentially use this specific species to unveil ultimate power. Maybe there's something to do in Sonic's universe, where being a hedgehog just has you have a natural ability to have greater power than a lot of other things. Sounds unfair, but that's how it works. But the only other thing I was going to say that sounds a little counterintuitive to this type of story, the way they would explain the story is in Sonic Adventure. I have a feeling Shadow the Hedgehog was created because of the ancient scriptures of chaos with Shadow, which was the supersonic, what do you call it?
It was are you talking about the poster of Sonic, Supersonic facing off against the Eggman robot, the mural in the...
Well, yeah, the mural, that's what I was talking about. It's like a hieroglyphic. There's that, and then there's in Sonic Adventure in the Lost World of Sonic beating perfect chaos. And I have a feeling that they were supposed to create Shadow the Hedgehog based on those type of legends, and that's why he was influenced in the design to create Shadow in the form he was.
And that's actually very interesting. Like, see the rabbit hole keeps going deeper. So it's like somebody had to make those murals. Like, that's the thing. Could you also imagine that maybe because the echidnas are the ones who created those ruins?
Yeah,
right.
You don't know if they had to do something with a different type of tribe that was hedgehogs.
Hold on. How about this? What if? Let's throw this out there. Maybe because again, Sonic Frontiers has so much room for possibility right now. Like, imagine this. Imagine what if the Emerald Shrines and everything and all that stuff What if it never belonged to the echidnas in the first place?
Ooh.
Because we already know for a fact that Pachacamac and those Knuckles clans, they were willing to go to war for pretty much anything.
To get
to be
power.
perfectly honest.
Yep.
It's like, what if they are the ones who usurped hedgehogs in ancient times? Like, they chased them out. Like, hedgehogs, maybe they're not really particularly interested in fighting, and since the echidnas were coming in to kick their sorry tails, they're like, nope, you can have it. We're just going to move on. Thank you. And so all this lore that we know about Knuckles' history, maybe it doesn't even belong to Knuckles. Like, maybe they adopted it. Maybe they made it their own. But it's very possible that this has nothing, like, all that stuff that was created originally, maybe it doesn't even have to do anything with Knuckles. Maybe Knuckles' people took that territory from the Hedgehogs, because if Hedgehogs supposedly have a much greater connection to the Emerald, because according to Izuka himself, Knuckles can't go super. Okay, so if Knuckles can't really do much with the Master Emerald, well, he can. So that's something that you have to explain.
Right. He was taught ancestrally how to use the Emerald's power, but what we're talking about here is how connected they are to the Hedgehogs in terms of using their full potential. There's a reason why Sonic changes color when he has access to these Chaos Emeralds, because it's a Hedgehog thing. The Echidna tribe was never able to utilize it correctly, and there was a reason why, because they were never supposed to have them in the first place. There was an ancient Hedgehog tribe that they might see in this game, all speculation, that might help explain all of this. Years of storyline telling that might connect it all in a very, very good way.
That would be awesome if that were the case, man. That, like, I literally just coming up, that wasn't even one of the original theories I had. I came up with this just as I was talking to you.
Well, yeah, it's all making sense if it does that, though. That's the cool thing.
And maybe that's the other thing, because we've heard, like, let's go back to Sonic Chronicles for a minute. And I know that technically that game is not canon because they said so, because it's BioWare's game.
Yep.
But, well, actually, you know what? I take it back. Because even though Chronicles is not, Sonic Battle is.
Sonic Battle is, and it still ties to what Adventure 1 and 2 do, which still involves the Echidna tribes. It's just what they do Sonic afterwards is a different thing, yes.
And so, but think about it. What makes an appearance in that? The whole game is centered around this one robot who was supposedly made in ancient times. A Gizoid, Emerald.
A robot. Oh,
robot.
Oh my gosh.
A robot 4,000 years ago. So, what if this super powerful AI is kind of cut from the same cloth as the civilization that created the Gizoids? Like, who? Like, it's always said that, somebody made the Gizoids. Well, who? Who made the Gizoids? Who was so technologically advanced 4,000 years ago that they were able to create Gizoids and use them as war machines?
This makes me mad in a good way, because now we have like a yin and yang situation. Because imagine the Echidna tribes had the ability to learn and harness to create different types of Gizoids. Well, if they got them from like the Hedgehog tribes, imagine the Hedgehogs were the source of their own demise because they created those kinds of robots, and now we have this weird dichotomy where Sonic takes out robots to create natural order in the world. Like, my mind's blown if that was the truth.
And think about it though. Yes, he bashes bots, but he doesn't like just pick up. He doesn't like just. He's not like Omega, where he's like, I see a robot, must destroy. You know, he doesn't. He's not like that. With Emerald, he found this robot crashed and spluttered in the dirt. And he's like, hey, you all right? And like immediately, there's just like this connection.
Yeah, he felt the soul with him.
Like there's like, the robot's like, show up my power? Okay, here, how about this? And immediately, like it was designed to take the nearest source of power. Okay, well, if that's the case, then maybe what it is that the Gizoids back in the day, all the, like that entire civilization would show maybe this AI, maybe it would be loyal to this AI, which was loyal to the Hedgehogs.
Yeah.
And so all the Gizoids would go this follow those orders.
If it's true. I mean, like, this is how it would make sense for them to do this. I don't know if they would ever actually do it, because I feel like
they won't.
Overhyping.
But like, this is the kind of speculation they tell us not to do.
Sense. It would just be like, if you took the 10 minutes to like make a video on how this would all link together if it was true, it was just like, it would make the franchise like legendary in terms of like continuity. I feel like it would be. and it's mad.
Amazing.
It's not gonna happen. Oh.
It's not gonna happen. No, but man, this is the kind of thing that I wish I could like talk to Ian Flynn and be like, Psst, hey, I got a story pitch for you. How about this?
Work.
Yeah. It's like, this could work. Let's do it.
Oh boy.
All right. So we've gone over an hour now. I think this is a good time to stop. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. Maybe we'll bring in some other folks and we'll kind of talk about what ideas that we could bring to the Sonic series. I'm going to have a hard time figuring out what I'm going to title this, because originally it was just going to be like, oh, I want to talk about Sonic Frontiers. This seems to be more of a Sonic story retrospective than anything else. Maybe that's what I'll call it.
Yeah, it all ties to how they can continue it properly, and that's why I feel like having it be Sonic Frontiers related still counts, and it would help.
Oh yeah, no, it's still Sonic Frontiers related. I just have to figure out a good title.
Yeah,
it's like Sonic Frontier and others. Sonic Frontiers and why Sonic stories need to get better. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But anyway, Zino, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to let me talk at you for most of this thing.
Hey, it was a good way for us to, 1, catch up, 2, explain the story, and 3, like, help diverge our minds to figuring out how they're not doing the story right and how it could be done.
Yeah, exactly. I
never think
once
of
again, it's like the fans are better than the actual people. Let the fans do it. I'm like, okay, well, yes and no. Like, we don't have the technology most of the time, but like, I said this to you jokingly, and I can't help but wonder if it's true now. It's like maybe Sonic Team just makes crappy games because they know that once it's out, the fans are just gonna go and fix it anyway. So who cares?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, why should we put in all this effort if they're just gonna change it anyway?
I don't know.
What's next? What's on your plate, Zion, so everybody knows?
Oh yeah, we were supposed to do that too. I don't know. I'm working on Sonic fighting games right now, slowly procrastinating on making the script, getting the gameplay done. I just reviewed the games right now. My channel's all over the place in terms of content, but I'm trying to focus on concrete reviews for specific games. And right now, Sonic fighting games. So if you ever check out my channel, expect to see something like that in the future if that's your cup of tea.
All right, there you go. So go ahead and subscribe to him at Zino76. If you liked this whole long podcast, which it was supposed to be, Zino, I swear, it was only supposed to be 20 minutes. But if you liked this hour-long special of Sonic story talking, make sure you subscribe and leave a like, leave a comment, and tell us what your thoughts are for what Sonic Frontiers could be about, what Sonic could do in his future if they were so inclined. Basically, what would you do if you were the Sonic story writer at this point? And try to make it like semi-realistic, please. I don't want to hear that Shadow and Amy have babies. No, I don't want to hear that.
Concrete.
I don't even, like, even as a Son Amy shipper, I'm like, let's be realistic about where they could go with this, please. Thank you.
Yeah. We just want to see your guys' opinion on how this structure could work, what you guys think it's going to do. I don't know where I was going with that. That pretty much covers it, man. Like, what would you do if you were a Sonic story writer at this point? With Frontiers, with Sonic's future, with all of the lore that's been built up. There's so much room for stuff, and that's what the Sonic IDW comics are trying to build on. Like, Sonic IDW just went ahead and made the Sonic Heroes Power Cores canon. Can you imagine that? Like, one little one-off power-up from a game that most people say, oh, it's not good anymore. They made that an actual story element, man. And they made it work.
And they made it work. Like, there's so much to play with. Oh, my God. All right. We're going to go ahead and cut it here before we go into another hour-long rant about stuff. Maybe we'll do this again another time. Maybe I'll bring in some other folks to talk about stuff with me and Zino. So anyway, thank you all so much for this little joining us. I really had fun with it. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I really appreciate having the opportunity to do so. So go subscribe to Zino, subscribe to me, subscribe to my brother Orion while you're out. Orion the Starhawk, he's my brother. Just a little quick plug in there because he's my little brother. I got to. All right. We will see you all hopefully another time soon.
Sometime soon. Yep. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.